No, that's not true, Mr. Durham. That is not true, because I'm holding the document that authorizes your activity, and it specifically says the investigation of Special Counsel Robert Mueller. It's in Mr. Chairman, I seek unanimous consent to enter into the record the order that says that you're supposed to investigate these things. And so, like, whether it's the Mueller team, MIFSUD, how about Azra Turk? Azra Turk, what's Azra Turk's real name? Do you know that?
I'm not going to be disclosing the names of FBI personnel that are otherwise unavailable.
But an FBI, so the FBI sends somebody to go honeypot George Papadopoulos. Who gave the order to do that?
I think that's beyond the scope of what's in the report.
It's literally the scope of what your charging order is. Who put it in motion? We get after it was put in motion, the FBI did a bunch of wrong and corrupt things. Totally understand. We're trying to deal with that. But when you are part of the cover-up, Mr. Durham, then it makes our job harder.
Yeah, well, if that's your thought, I mean, there's no way of dissuading you from that. I can tell you that it's offensive and that the people who worked on this investigation have spent their lives trying to protect the people in this country and pursue within the law what it is that we are authorized to do.
You tried 2 cases, lost both of them, and then the one guilty plea you got, Kleinsmith is back to practicing law in Washington, D.C. today.
Yeah, that's beyond my control.
Right, but the fact that you allowed that plea to occur, right, and then the punishment was insufficient, the fact that you didn't charge Andrew McCabe, you didn't convict the lying Democrats or the lying Russians, you didn't investigate MIFSUD or the Mueller probe, even though, as we sit here today in black letter, that was your charge. Have you ever heard of the Washington Generals?
The Washington Generals, yes.
Yeah, and they're the team that basically gets paid to show up and lose, right?
Well, you know, I'm sure that the players who exert blood, sweat, and tears don't view it that way, but you might.
I think they do. I think they do, because the job of the Washington Generals is to show up every night and to play the Harlem Globetrotters. And their job is to lose.
I'm sorry, of a different, I was thinking of a different thing.
Yeah, so their job is to lose. And I'm kind of wondering, and it just seems so facially obvious that it's not what's in your report that's telling, it's the omission. It's the lack of work you did. And for the people like the chairman who put trust in you, I think you let them down. I think you let the country down. And you are one of the barriers to the true accountability that we need.
Do I get to respond to that or comment on that? Yeah. Well, I don't know if you've ever investigated a crime.
I don't know that you have. You didn't investigate these, Mr. Durham.
Whether or
How about Andy McCabe? Did you charge him? Did you investigate him?
When Durham is asked the question, you know, who gave the order? And his response is that it's beyond the scope of what's in the report, or what should be in the report, I guess is what he was trying to say. And so it's so frustrating, because I agree, like, if you think about it, it is literally the scope of what this report is charging. So all the information should be in there. Who gave the order for the investigation, and they're trying to find out, like, who is the headmaster of all this. And although they can kind of figure it out themselves, they've got to prove it. And that's why Mr. Durham is they're interviewing him. And the frustrating part is that now when Durham is part of the cover-up, which is what the report is kind of like going toward, it makes it harder and more difficult for them to really find out what happened, what was really going on here, which is really frustrating, because I don't know about you, like, every time we see stuff like this, no one ever gets held accountable. And if you see my video response in the past, I mean, I do say this all the time, because it's so true, and no one ever gets held accountable. Like, so what they were having these interviews, like, what's going to happen? You know, what's the aftermath here? Who's going to be held accountable? What's going to change? What changes are going to start to happen? You know, these guys just get away with it all the time. And it's sad that it's through the FBI, too.